Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. My name is Martha Brown, and I am your volunteer with Dementia Friendly Fort Worth. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am your host for today's activities. Our topic today is brought to you by Peggy Spear from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy is going to talk to us about St. Patrick's Day, and it looks like most of us are wearing a little bit of green so we won't get pinched. Peggy, take it away.
All right. I know, I love all the green. It's so festive on screen.
Martha, I was going to say, it doesn't look like your corsage is going to last very long. Woodstock is really attacking it.
Yes, he is, and I'm feeling it fall on my arm.
Oh, no.
That's funny.
He's a chewer.
All right. Well, again, I've committed myself to a topic that our collection just couldn't support. So we're expanding St. Patrick's Day to Irish a little bit. And I couldn't find anything in our collection that was clovers, that was shamrock, that was St. Patrick's Day parade. I thought for sure we would have some journalistic images in our collection of the Boston or New York or Hoboken parades, but we did not. So we're kind of grasping at straws, but it makes it fun. So our first image, well, first of all, St. Patrick's Day. Are any of you St. Patrick's Day buffs?
Nope.
No.
John, share with us what you know.
Birthday's on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Myra's mother's birthday was on St. Patrick's Day.
That's double the fun, double the green beer.
Double the green beer. That's right.
So saying I actually, my degree is in Catholic studies. I come from a very Catholic family. Art history and Catholic studies is my degrry. So St.
Wow.
Patrick's Day has always been a big party and celebration in our family since we were little kids. So St. Patrick was a bishop in Ireland, and he was actually kidnapped and brought to Ireland, eventually left, and then came back to Ireland when he had escaped. So he became a bishop. He is thought to have brought Christianity to Ireland, and legend in the Catholic Church is that he's the one that explained the Holy Trinity on a shamrock. So often you see him holding the shamrock. Legend also has it that he drove all the snakes out of Ireland. There are no snakes in Ireland.
There are no snakes in Ireland ever.
Too cold for those reptiles or whatever they're amphibians to be living in there, but that is how the legend goes. And so St. Patrick is the patron saint of Ireland. So that is a little history on the saint himself.
That's
So
good.
the celebrations on March 17th, that's the day he is supposed to have died or is recorded as dying, and in the 5th century. And it wasn't until about the 10th century that Roman Catholics started celebrating this saint. And not necessarily the way that we celebrate him today. The parades didn't start happening in the United States until I think within the last 50, 100 years. So that's relatively new.
Yeah. Is this a form or can I call you back when our meeting is over?
So, okay.
Good morning, Dusty. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning.
All right, so now we know a little bit about the Catholic saint. What do we see here?
Thank you for the history lesson.
Yeah, that's just a quick down and dirty. I know St. Patrick, a lot of people felt kind of like a Cinco de Mayo. People are all Irish on St. Patrick's Day and don't necessarily know a lot about the saint himself, but he's a rock star in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, he had some kind of life.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed the little speech there.
Oh no, that's okay. Just giving a little history on who St. Patrick was. So
He's very similar in his life to John Newton, because Patrick was also a slave and John Newton was a slave, and they both went back and preached the gospel.
Who is that?
John Newton with Amazing
Oh,
Grace.
yeah.
He was a slave, or a slaver, and then a slave, and he became a Christian, and Patrick was the same way. He was a slave, became a Christian, and then went back to Ireland.
Right. But the Amazing Grace, what's his name? I forget.
John Newton.
Newton. He was a slaver rather than a slave,
Right.
wasn't he?
Well, he was a slaver and became a slave.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he became a slave because his conscience was getting to him, and the people he was working for made him become a slave.
Huh.
But he was a slave actually in the hold of one of their slaver ships. He became a Christian.
Learn all kinds of cool stuff being on this meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, David, the whole world is just better because of this group.
Sorry,
So-
taking up your time.
I
No,
agree.
no, no.
Sorry about that. I threw that in.
No,
Yeah.
it's amazing. So we're starting off with the photograph. What do we see in this photograph?
And
Obviously a Catholic priest.
Catholic priest.
He
Yes,
seems tall compared to everything around him.
Yes.
he does. And, you know, this artists lie, we know that. But this particular artist is said to not to have manipulated the photographs that she made. We have found that that is not true. We know she manipulated photographs. I don't know if she manipulated this one in terms of distortion or things like that, but he's very tall.
He's very serene,
Yeah.
very peaceful,
Very peaceful.
and stately, in his demeanor.
Yeah, he has a bit of a presence to him. And we've talked about this type of style of photograph before. It's called pictorialism. And it's not documenting a scene. It's more of telling a story about a scene. It's softer images. I mean, the background you can see looks very blurry, very out of focus. It's deliberate. That's how, I mean, if Cipral wanted to make it a very crisp photograph, she could have, but she deliberately chose to soften the background, making this priest the focus. I mean, he would have been, I think, anyway, but it's really about him and not anything else around him.
It's interesting he's not facing the camera though.
So what is this stance or this gaze he has? What is that? What kind of thoughts do you have about that, or what kind of story is that telling to you?
He's going somewhere.
He's
Okay, yeah.
deep in thought.
Deep in thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Is that Rusty? Knowing that he's a man of the cloth, it almost, while it's blurry, to me, I get this impression that he is part of that landscape, or he's part of what God's will is with that landscape. So there's this looking off in a distance is almost looking to a higher being, as
Yeah. He's watching. Yeah.
Yeah. And this particular photographer was really well known for taking portraits, landscape and portraiture. So we got a little bit of both in one photograph. But she took portraits of Albert Einstein and other famous people during her lifetime. So she was very good at capturing part of the essence of the person through photographs. So, someone said deep in thought, that contemplative life, that life in prayer and solitude might be captured here in this priest's portrait. And I could not find anything about this specific priest. And she never left the United States, or she's Canadian, but she never went to Europe. So this was not taken in Ireland. This had to have been somewhere in the United States.
Okay.
All right, so we're now moving on to our next. Cabbage. Again, I'm gonna walk you through this one.
Never seen Margaret before?
We have not seen Margaret Watkins before, I don't believe, with me. You might have before I picked up, but I've not shown you any Margaret Watkins before.
Okay.
She's a Canadian American, and she's also known for her, or she's just Canadian, but she was known for commercial. She did a lot of commercial photography in her time, and she was well known during her life, especially in a time when women were not. She was creating and working in a time when women were not viewed on the same platform as men. So this was really kind of wonderful for a successful career for her. Anyone know why I picked cabbage?
Well, because
Something
St. Patrick's
green.
Day, use a lot of Irish eat a lot of cabbage.
Corned beef?
Corned
Yeah.
beef and cabbage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So during starting in the 10th century, that would be the traditional meal you would eat on St. Patrick's Day. It was either bacon, which transitioned into corned beef, and cabbage. And during St. Patrick's Day always falls during Lent, and in the Catholic Church, you cannot eat meat on Fridays.
Mhm.
So it's always been, and as long as I've been alive, that's no matter where I'm living, the bishop has always lifted it. On Fridays, if St. Patrick falls on a Friday, the bishop issues a special dispensation that allows Catholics to eat corned beef on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the bishop, the Archbishop of Dallas Fort Worth, has in the past, this is today, but I think a couple of years ago it was on a Friday. He lifted it so we could all eat our corned beef and cabbage. But what do we see? We've seen cabbage and we've seen lettuce before. This is apparently a very interesting topic to artists.
I was thinking about that because I think it wasn't the person that did lithographs.
Yep.
It did cabbage, and I think that maybe that's why Don was thinking
Yeah, that's
about.
what I think.
You've seen it,
That's what I was thinking.
it did lithographs with using cabbage.
Yes. And if you can reflect on what those artworks look like, I didn't drop one in here to compare, but do you remember they were very abstracted?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see some of those same types of abstractions here?
No, this is pretty straightforward.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She crops it in a way that if I didn't give you the title, she crops it, she gets very, very close. So there is a little bit of, might take you a second to realize, am I looking at the inside of a flower, or is this cabbage, or,
Yeah, it looks like a rose.
a rose? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shadows too create almost more leaves than are actually there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she was really well known for her cropping, which is showing here. But she was also really known for her photograph of everyday objects. And so what's more everyday than cabbage? And so domestics, and she was very interested in round forms. So while this is cropped, there's still the repeating we're seeing over and again. Do you like the photograph of the cabbage more, or are we liking the lithograph with the color? What would you gravitate towards?
I like realism a lot of times, so I like this a little bit better.
Yeah, I do too.
All right,
You don't have to think so hard.
it's pretty real. You know what you're getting right when you look at it.
Yeah. Kind of like going to the produce section.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get.
If only every produce section looked this beautiful, huh?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Let's look more from a farmer's market.
Yes, I love it.
Oh, cabbage.
All right, so we're moving to our next image.
I like
And
that.
this
Oh,
is a
That's
lithograph
beautiful.
entitled Irish Grandmother by a friend of ours. We've seen his works before, George Bellows. And Bellows was the one that did the boxing scene.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
he did the polo scene. When we looked at sports, he had two in that particular one. So what do we see here?
Cane. She's got a cane.
A cane, yes. She's holding a cane.
she's a reader.
Earrings.
She's a reader.
She's a reader
Yep.
with a book on her lap,
Probably a Bible.
a Bible.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything on the spine that I can see.
Well, but it's a thick one. It's got that little At least to me, that little marker coming off the side of the bottom, it's usually meant as a placeholder.
Oh, down here, you're seeing it, or down
Yeah,
here?
down there.
Down there, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that
could be
might
part
be.
of the dress, but usually
Yeah.
that's a placeholder, and it's usually a Bible.
Mhm.
She has a shawl on.
A shawl, yep,
Shawl.
She's very skinny.
skinny,
Yeah, her fingers are thin.
yeah,
Her
Tattoos
face
on
is not without
Broad.
doesn't have very muscles. Her muscles are atrophied or something in her face.
She's got I don't know what they call them. It's kind of like a cap on,
hmm
Bonnet, a bonnet.
bonnet. Yeah, the bonnet. Kind of,
yeah.
kind of.
And I don't know if you can see the detailing here.
Yeah,
And here, it looks almost as if she had kind of that lace underlay that often would
Right.
accompany fancier dress.
she looks happy
Yeah.
Yes.
to me
And what makes you say that?
because her face.
Yeah.
She's not frowning. She's actually almost a smile.
Yeah,
But her eyes look sad.
Yeah, her eyes definitely look sad.
I agree. Her eyes look sad. She seems to come from a wealthier, I would guess, socioeconomic situation. I don't know. We don't know who this woman is. But we do know that George Bellows, this was a time in his career when he was up in Woodstock, New York, and he ended up building a house up there. And so he was spending a lot of time up there. I believe his mom lived there. And he was drawing portraits of family and friends that he met, particularly attracted to drawing elderly people. And so this was one of those portraits created during that time. So we don't really know who this person is. But it's a lithograph. But if I didn't tell you it was a lithograph, and correct me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel it looks as though he did it with charcoal or pencil.
Yeah.
It does to me, yes.
Yeah.
He was really good at lithographs, and when we looked at the boxing and the polo match, those were lithographs too. He was so good at them, he made them look as if they were sketched or drawn by hand when they were really done on a lithographic stone with inks. So the lithograph wasn't always a popular medium in the United States, and he is one of the artists that made it a popular medium in the US and proved that it wasn't a dated process of creating works on paper, but made it kind of splashy and fun and have a bit of a dynamic feel to them that often lithographs lacked.
And
So-
the
Go
detail,
ahead.
you see the writing on her arm and you see all the wrinkles and, the detail is just amazing.
Is that tattoo like on her arm or what is that?
My hunch is that it's the lace, kind of like a lace.
Yeah.
Okay, but we don't see the end of it really, like you do
No.
on the normal sleeve.
It's kind of ragged.
Yeah, which gives it that sense of quick sketching.
Yeah.
Nothing was really that quick in lithography. So it feels like he was more interested in capturing maybe the attention of the face.
Yeah.
Because that seems to have a lot of detail to it.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the bottom side of her arm, you see something similar to what's written on top of her arm. So that tells me more that it's lace than a,
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
now that I get out my,
Love it.
yes,
I know you want to like zoom in on these things.
yes.
And
If I
then-
hadn't seen that, I would have thought it was a tattoo also.
Yeah, I thought it was a tattoo for a while, but
I
then,
thought it was that too.
She's a hard grandma, you know.
yeah, that's right. She's an Irish
Look at
grandma.
that hard life in the 1920s, getting those tattoos.
And then on her left arm, we get the idea of,
The lace.
yeah,
Of a crop, yeah.
gathering or lace,
Yeah.
but a totally different look.
And this particular artwork is about 12 inches by 9 inches. So you would be able to see pretty up close some of that nice detailing if you were to see it in person. And so this is one of the lithographs that several museums have this portrait. And he was able to make multiple copies of this particular portrait.
She looks old.
Mhm.
And
She looks as if
oh, go ahead, Yetta.
she looks as if she has had a very hard life where she worked a lot and was maybe outside.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah.
She looks tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
I would love to know how old she actually is. None of that
Yeah.
information has survived with this, right.
She certainly does not look pampered,
No.
other than what she's wearing.
Right, yeah.
She
Yeah,
looks like
and
she's
she never went to Europe, so she could have been an Irish immigrant. She just could have come from an Irish background, but he did not. This was not done. Like I said, he lives in Woodstock. This was not done in Ireland.
You know, her finger joints even look arthritic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, good point.
Mhm. Great observation.
Yeah,
I mean, the detail is amazing.
yeah. He was really good at portraiture, and he painted a lot of portraits as well. And down here it says George Bellows, and then it says under it Irish grandmother. And I believe the name right here is the printer, the person who actually ran the print through the on the lithographic stone. Those often got as much, not as much, but they were recognized with the artist because it's a true talent to be able to print and not have anything smudge or bubbles in the touche or anything like that. So I think that's who that name is down there. All right, we got one more. And this is by photographer Willard Ames Van Dyke. He was an American. And he had a long career. He worked in film. He's actually really known for film. And while he was a photographer himself, he was sort of the pub guide. People would come to him and he would put other people in touch. He was sort of like the broker for other photography shows to come together and things like that. But he did receive a fellow from the Ford Foundation in 1979 and 1980, which this says 1978. So I'm wondering the timeline, but he received a fellowship to go to Ireland to photograph around the country. So what do we see in this particular photograph?
You see, looks like a shop with living quarters above it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is very common.
It's like a mom and pop place.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Do you have any guesses on what they might be selling or
Beer.
Well, it says. I
what makes
don't.
you say beer?
Maybe it's a
Why did I say
cobbler.
beer?
Did
I
someone-
don't. It looked like a tavern to me.
a tavern?
Does he got an apron on? It could be a cobbler.
Cobbler. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yes, he does have an apron on. It's black and white striped. I can't tell what this.
Yeah, what's in the window?
It looks to me like there are two terracotta planters with a little bit of flower, like 3 or 4 stems coming out of it. I can't tell what's through the blurred window.
No.
Yeah. That's
But to me, it doesn't look like tables and chairs. My initial thought was, oh, this must be like a little cafe in a neighborhood. But it doesn't seem, you'd think there would be, maybe a couple tables and chairs outside on the sidewalk, or you would see chair backs or a table pressed up against the glass, maybe.
What does it mean, bequest of Elliot Porter?
That Elliot Porter essentially gifted it. It was gifted on Elliot Porter's behalf. And so Elliot Porter was also someone who used this die coupler print method when printing his photographs. So this might be an artist a photographer that he was interested in, or just admired his work or whatever.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for asking that because I wanted to know it too.
Great.
Yeah,
names.
if you don't ever see, sometimes, or, I'll include what we call the tombstone information in the industry. People call it the tombstone because it's the stuff you want to know about the artwork right out of the gate. If it doesn't have a line that says gifted or request of or purchased from, that just means it's part of our regular collection. If you see some of these details, that often means there is stipulation on how we have to acknowledge how it was acquired into our collection. So you don't always see it.
I was looking at the building and they really use the color to kind of make the building stand out, storefront stand out from the rest of the, with the blues and the pinks.
Yes.
Since it was obviously smaller than the others.
Yeah.
I wonder if this was an alleyway that got closed in.
I know.
No,
It's very, very clean. It's like it's a very presentable storefront.
Yeah.
And the architecture, you have the part there, it's got the little stones, and then you got the mirrors, the windows down there, and the flat over there. So
it feels very vertical to me. Your eye just wants to keep going up and down with it. You're not necessarily pulled across,
Right.
There's no real story to it, but you're just interested. You keep, because I want to know, I'm following this up, and then if you hit that level change, you kind of want to go down, everything's very angular.
Tidy.
Yes. And so on this trip, we have other photographs in the collection from this artist of landscapes that he took of Ireland. But it's such a sweet picture. I was talking to one of the curators of photography, and she was like, I just love this picture. And there's no real reason why, but it's just a sweet image.
Peggy, thank you. I've got to leave for today, but thank you so much.
Bye.
Enjoyed it.
Okay, bye.
Okay, we'll see everybody tomorrow.
All right, Steve, bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, why is the year on the picture 1979 and up here it says 78?
That's what I'm trying to figure. I was trying to figure this out. He went to Ireland on that fellowship in 79 and 80. So, and he hadn't been to Ireland before. So it makes me think it was either typed in wrong in our database, or he actually went in towards the tail end, which would make sense with the weather because it looks like it's not freezing cold. He went in the tail end of 78 into 79. So I'm not sure why there's that discrepancy.
If you take a really hard look at the numbers for Ireland, 1970, that could be an 8 with a tiny tail instead of a 9.
It might be, but I was looking at his fellowship Ford Foundation, and he was awarded it for 79 and then again in 80. So okay. I don't know, there's something happening, and I couldn't beautiful mind it all together to figure out where that disconnect was.
Nancy's gone too.
Well, those are our 4 sort of St. Patrick's Day related images. But next week, I'm back with images of hats in American fashion here at the Amon Carter. So that I promise you, I can deliver on that.
Hats. Okay. Hats it is.
Hats it is. And then Don and Myra, I see y'all tomorrow, and we're getting hats we're doing hats for the Amon Carter Artful Moments, but you'll be getting different hats than the hats.
Different hats. All right.
Oh, good.
You're already warming up with your little leprechaun hats.
That's right. That's right.
Perfect segue. All right, friends, be good. I'll see you.
Bye, Peggy.
Bye,
Bye.
Peggy.
Bye, Peggy. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Miss Peggy. Well, okay. Do y'all want to go right into Fifth Street Cafe?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Let me do our dog and pony show. We'll get that shared. Tomorrow we're doing Jeopardy again.
All right. All right.
all right.
Yes. And I won't find something quite so simple as I did last week. I'm going to make you work for this one.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. But none of these are going to be difficult because I have to be able to answer them too.
Yeah.